Let's talk to Isabel Oakeshott, who I'm pretty sure won't agree with Andrew Griffith that Kemi Badenoch's probably the best person to run the country. Very good morning to you, Isabel.
Hi, I thought you were a little bit generous to Andrew there, saying, you know, the Conservatives ran the economy well. A lot of people were going to disagree with that, not least because it was under the Conservatives. Let's not forget that taxes rose to their highest levels in 70 years, and we didn't exactly have boom time, did we? Unfortunately, what came next was even worse.
But it does feel, that's the problem, it feels like that. It feels as though that was a very much better time already.
Well, I think we've not had any worse time than we're in now, if we could put it that way. And how do we get out of this desperate doom loop? Certainly, I'm not putting my faith in Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, who's written the lamest piece I can recall reading in recent times by any senior minister in one of today's papers. Each and every sentence has some cliche. Let me read you out a few. They're going to roll up their sleeves, apparently. They're going to have leaving no stone unturned. That's what they're going to do. And apparently there's no silver bullet. Each and every part of this article, which is all about how they're going to cut government waste, is just a load of old tripe. We've all heard it all before. And how can they look voters in the eye and say they're going to cut government waste when there are so many outrageous examples of government waste every day, and they've been in power for, I don't know how long. Honestly, it feels like an eternity, doesn't it? But since last July. Yeah,
it really does. Well, I take no notice of him ever since the last time I saw, the first time I think I saw him on TV. He was on with Laura Kunsberg some months ago, and I looked him up, and he's married to a net zero consultant and technology entrepreneur who co-founded the renewable energy company Village Infrastructure. He became a vegan in 2014 for reasons related to carbon emissions and agriculture. Sorry, mate, that puts you completely in the box for mad, nutty, frog-like people who I'm not interested in hearing from.
It was over before it even started, wasn't it, Mike, your relationship with Darren Jones? I remember reading similar. I was on some BBC political show with him, I guess a year or so ago, and I looked up and reached the same conclusion that we probably weren't going to have any kind of meeting of minds.
No, and that's the trouble, though. This entire government is full of people like him, you know, who have come from... He's got a legal background, I think. We've got somebody like Steve Reed, who's the Environment Secretary, who basically used to run Lambeth Council. You know, we've got people demonstrating, farmers demonstrating all weekend this weekend. We've heard nothing whatsoever from the government about it. It's just almost as though they think if they keep ignoring something, it will go away. You know, they ignore the grooming gangs, they hope it will go away. They ignore the economy, they hope it will go away. They ignore the NHS, hope it goes away. Farmers, pensioners, you know, parents. It's just the list is endless.
Well, just one problem. The one group that is definitely not going to go away is known as the electorate, the voters. And the more that they annoy, you know, one group of voters after another, there's not going to be that many people left who are still believing in the Labour cause. And as Andrew Griffith said earlier in your interview, you know, don't make me choose between which minister or department is being most incompetent, because there's just too much of an embarrassment of riches, although sadly not for our economy. It's really interesting that now Labour insiders are beginning to brief against Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, and as you say, her days do seem to be a little bit numbered. I think that the Prime Minister will be incredibly reluctant to give her up, because it will be such a totemic admission of failure. You know, as you were saying earlier in the show, what a fuss she made, you know, how vainglorious, putting up all these pictures of herself and going on about being the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, you know, making a fuss about having a special loo, blah, blah. And then to effectively have presided over this total disaster is so embarrassing. So he is going to try everything he can, the Prime Minister, to hold on to Rachel Reeves, because to lose your Chancellor within the first few months of a new administration, and let's not bother rehashing what happened with Liz Truss, but is incredibly undermining for your whole authority, I would say.
But isn't it interesting that an awful lot of people have pointed this out to me recently, that, you know, Liz Truss gets the blame for that budget. She was the Prime Minister, Kwasi Kwarteng was the Chancellor. Keir Starmer doesn't appear to be getting the blame for Rachel Reeves' budget, which is called Rachel Reeves' budget.
It's because it's the establishment, isn't it? You know, they're just not going to admit it. I mean, it's amazing how many people you talk to on the left who try to blame everything that's happening now with the economy still on Liz Truss. I mean, it's completely economically illiterate to do that. And, you know, the bottom line is they're not going to get this growth that they go on about when they continue to tax people to the hill and spend as if there's no tomorrow. It's the welfare budget they need to look at. I mean, it was just... there's an interesting story in today's Telegraph about 9 out of 10 of disability claims being assessed remotely, because guess what? Civil servants are working from home. Well, that's an absolute recipe for abuse, isn't it?
Well, it absolutely is, and I'm happy to say that partially because Donald Trump has come into power, you've basically now got... American companies, big American companies, JP Morgan, telling their staff they need to come back 5 days a week. You know, the working from home days are over. The blended working is over. You know, America's going to lead the way here. And they've got an awful lot of people around the world who are going to be told exactly the same thing. Some of them are in London. And I see this as the year of common sense if things go well.
Well, I'd like to see it as a year in which I stop getting email replies that have underneath the person's name, "Please note my working hours are," and then they proceed to explain just how often they're actually not working.
Right.
I mean, you know, no wonder we're not a booming economy if people are basically only ever part-time. And moreover, even if they are part-time, because of course there's a case for part-time working, and particularly for parents of young children, it's an attitude thing, isn't it? To have that on your out of office auto reply basically says that you don't want to be bothered when you're not technically on duty.
Right.
Well, no one ever became a millionaire with that attitude, and neither does a country become a booming economy with that attitude, where people just think they can clock on and clock off, and anything that happens outside their stipulated working hours is someone else's problem.
Yeah, I mean, I've never understood that attitude in any way, shape or form, because it's so kind of ridiculous. It's like, if you want to work like that, then you should get a job in a shop, right? And sit at the till, and you only have to work while you're there. And then when you leave the shop and you're no longer at the till, then you can forget about your job. But in any kind of job that involves, you know, what you might call, you know, a successful business, decisions that have to be made 24/7 around the clock, you know, you can't just claim that you're not working. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's just not going to lead you to climbing the ladder, is it? That's the bottom line.
No.
Now, I feel this conversation is getting a bit heavy, Mike. And can we just talk about washing machines? Because just before I came on, I had some washing to do, and it occurred to me that I really don't know any other cycle other than the express cycle. And who the heck wants to put their washing on for 3 hours? Who does that?
Well, exactly.
So
but
I think we need a word.
This is my favourite. Yeah, we do. This is my favourite story of the day. It's a survey that says that 28% consider the washing machine the most confusing piece of household tech. 47% of people use the same program every time, which is inevitably the quick wash, which is what I do. Yeah. You know, you put it on. I think it's about 30 minutes. It comes out more or less dry because it's a washer dryer. I put it if I need to put anything, if I need to hang anything up, you can still do that, because there's nothing worse. When I was married, one of the reasons I'm no longer married. My wife used to hang clothes everywhere. You know, I'd come home from work, lived in this house in Wiltshire, and there'd be clothes sort of over the back of chairs, over radiators. I'd be like, what are you doing? To ovens, 21% find timer settings the most confusing.
What are they?
Well, yeah, I mean, I once locked I've got a quite expensive cooker now, and I once locked it by mistake, and I couldn't unlock it, and I just wanted to cook some. I was like, well, I don't know how you do this. I went and stayed in a very nice house in Montenegro last summer, and they had a Gaggenau cooker, which apparently cost thousands and thousands of pounds. Couldn't make it work at all. Had to go on YouTube with my son, who's much better at these kind of things than I am, to work out how to, you know, scramble some eggs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite in favour of just on and off. You know, that helps me a lot. You know, and as for the washing machine, the compartment where you're supposed to put in the powder or liquid.
No.
Even at my age, I still don't know which side does it go in.
No, why does it have a divider in it? It all goes down the same hole.
They don't have that in cars, do they? You know, one bit for your pre-petrol and one bit for your petrol softener.
Actually, they do. I once had a diesel Land Rover, and you had to put two because you had to put the what do you call it, the blue whatever it is stuff in one side and the diesel in the other side. But anyway, what about defrosting a freezer? Have you got any advice for me on that?
Yeah, get the towels ready, because it always creates an absolute lake in my house, you know. And also, like, hammering away at it, you know, you're going to hurt your fingers. Yeah. It's just a job that everyone absolutely hates, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, sooner or later, I'm not going to be able to open the top drawer, you see. So
that's the thing. You always put it off, don't you, until you actually have to ram the fish fingers into the tiny
I'll end up doing. I'll probably end up cutting a hole in the drawer so that I can get my hand in it.
In the iceberg.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, listen, that was far more interesting.
I think we can just talk about this all day.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we should definitely do a white goods podcast with Isabel Oakeshott and Mike Graham. We could do that.
Oh, I love it.
Good to talk to you. Our international editor. I was going to ask you about Tulip Sadiq, but I can't be bothered now. Isabel Oakeshott, thank you very much indeed